Welcome to the Deep Dive. We cut through the noise to give you the essentials on complex topics. Today, we're getting into the weeds of Sino-US relations. It's complicated, to say the least. We'll look at the diplomacy, the economic shifts, and definitely the friction around tech and security. We've got sources covering different angles, so we should get a pretty rounded view. Okay, let's kick things off with the diplomacy. What's the latest on potential high-level talks?
Right. Well, the big thing is this potential meeting between Xi Jinping and President Trump later this year.
Yeah.
It would actually be their first face-to-face summit since Trump took office.
Wow, okay. So what sparked this possibility?
It seems to stem from a handwritten letter from Xi himself. He invited Trump to Beijing for a parade on September 3rd. It's the 80th anniversary of the victory in the anti-Japanese war and World Anti-Fascist War, a really significant event for China.
A handwritten letter. Interesting. How did Trump respond?
Apparently, positively. On a call around June 5th, he showed a, quote, positive attitude about going.
But it's probably not that simple,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. You've got expected pushback from, the more hawkish elements in the administration. Think Secretary of State Rubio, perhaps. And there was a counter-suggestion, too. Trump apparently asked if Xi might visit the U.S. for the UN General Assembly in September.
Angie's response.
Well, reports say Xi doesn't have plans to attend the UN personally right now. But, interestingly, U.S. officials are already doing some groundwork for a potential Trump trip to China.
So the U.S. side seems keen to keep that channel open.
Seems like it. And
Yeah.
focusing more on the big political picture, not just, say, trade deals this time.
Okay, let's pivot to the economy. This is where things get really fascinating, I think. We're hearing U.S. Treasury advisors might lift some Biden-era export controls. What's behind that?
Yeah, this is quite a strategic play. The idea floating around is lifting certain tech export controls in exchange for China speeding up permits for rare earth elements.
Rare earths. Okay, remind us why those are so critical.
They're essential for, well, almost everything high-tech. Smartphones, EVs, defense systems, you name it. The goal here for the U.S. seems to be preventing a complete economic split, a decoupling. It's kind of a pragmatic move, recognizing they need each other for certain things.
It sounds like acknowledging a certain interdependence.
Precisely. And we saw a different kind of economic pressure work recently, didn't we, with Canada?
Yes, the digital services tax.
Right. Canada planned this 3% tax, hitting mostly U.S. tech firms. Trump threatened tariffs, and, well,
Canada canceled the tax.
they did. It really highlights the trade leverage the U.S. still has when it wants to use it.
Which brings us neatly to technology. Always a flashpoint. And TikTok is front and center again.
Absolutely. President Trump recently said he's found buyers for TikTok. And he seems to think Xi Jinping would actually approve the deal.
That's quite a statement. This is linked to that divestment bill from April, right?
Exactly. The law requires TikTok to separate from its Chinese parent, ByteDance, by January 2025 or face a U.S. ban. But what's really interesting is Trump has pushed back that deadline 3 times now. It's currently September 17th.
Why the extensions?
He actually mentioned a, quote, special emotional attachment, linking it to attracting younger voters via the platform. So you see this mix of national security and domestic politics.
Fascinating blend of motives there.
And the concern over Chinese tech isn't just about TikTok, is it?
No, not at all. We're seeing worries about other apps too, like DeepSight.
Right. Germany's Data Protection Authority asked Apple and Google to remove it. The concern, data potentially going back to China. And there's talk of U.S. legislation possibly banning it too. And it's not just software. Look at Hikvision, the surveillance tech company.
What's happening there?
Canada just ordered them to stop operations and banned federal agencies from using their gear.
Citing national security.
Following similar moves by the U.S., U.K., and Australia, it's about concerns over potential espionage or surveillance capabilities.
So, tying these tech issues and economic moves together, what does it signal for wider security dynamics? We're seeing countries taking sides, it seems.
That's the crucial question, isn't it? You see things like Lithuania and the Philippines signing a defense cooperation memo.
What's the significance there?
It points towards democratic nations coordinating more closely to counter what they see as security challenges from China. It's not just rhetoric, it's practical cooperation. And Lithuania's defense minister was pretty blunt, saying China is working with Russia, Iran, North Korea, essentially forming a bloc that threatens democracies.
That paints a picture of hardening alliances, maybe.
Potentially, yes. A more defined grouping of perceived threats and the democratic response.
So, stepping back, looking at all these threads, diplomacy, economy, tech, security, What's the overall takeaway from the sources on China's approach?
Well, the consensus seems to be that despite some tactical shifts, maybe a slightly different tone here and there,
Hmm.
the fundamental wolf warrior diplomacy, that more assertive, sometimes confrontational stance towards the West hasn't really changed.
So the underlying tensions remain pretty strong.
That's what the sources suggest, yeah. Continued potential for friction on multiple fronts, economic and political.
It's clearly a relationship that's constantly shifting, trying to balance these incredibly complex, often competing interests.
Absolutely. So much in play, all the time.
Definitely something for all of us to keep thinking about how these diplomatic moves, economic pressures, and security concerns will continue to ripple outwards and shape the global picture. Thanks for deep diving with us today.